Good afternoon, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews, and I am your literary ambassador. And today I have Rachelle Lawson on my channel. Welcome, Rachelle.
Thank you so much, Queenie. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
How you doing?
I am very well. Pretty excited. It's a sunny day here in Ohio. We don't get the sun as much as in other areas. It's one of the cloudiest cities, so when it's sunny, yeah, my endorphins are high.
Yes. Now tell us about yourself.
So I am an author, a relationship coach to young women, and a motivational teacher. I've been teaching young women. I've been teaching aged students for about 7 to 8 years. However, I am mostly passionate about serving young women, particularly ages 18 to 30 or so.
Okay. And
that's who I am. So that's who I am: author, motivational speaker, teacher, and relationship coach to young women.
Okay. What is your genre?
Self-help, Christian self-help and Christian counseling. That's what we call it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can talk about your book now. Tell us about your book.
All right, so this is my first book. If you guys can see, it is Girl, Get Your Life, A Young Woman's Guide to Life and Relationships That Win. And I published this book last year and wrote it for basically it's a tribute to the daughters that I never birthed, my goddaughters, my students, my nieces, great nieces, and all of those students that were asking and requiring more of me in the classroom. So it's really a tribute to them. This book was written and inspired by my own life experience and my desire to support young women in living a more full and free life. And I believe that happens when they understand three primary ideas, and that is, one, their identity. Because what I believe is that in this generation, I noticed it probably when I was an undergraduate student, about 20 or so years ago, that this generation has a severe identity crisis. Mm-hmm. And so we do, as well as a culture of African Americans, have some identity challenges as well. But as a culture, this generation has an identity crisis. So they're very insecure in who they are. They're looking for all sorts of things to identify with and to name and define who they are, when really that comes centrally when you understand who you are and your creator, and that is God. And so your identity is the first part of that. And then once you know a little bit about who you are, you get on that journey, because, self-awareness is really all a journey. We can never come to know fully the fullness and the depth of who we are, because we're such multifaceted, multi-layered people and beings. As deep as God is in his creation is as deep as the creation is itself. And so getting on the journey to learning about yourself in a most authentic place is the goal there. Once you're there, then you can begin to ask the questions about, what am I supposed to do with my life? I hear many people talking about discover your purpose, find your purpose, live in purpose, but how can you do that if you don't know who you are? I believe that who you are leads to what you do. The reason that dogs chase tails is because that's because they are dogs, and that's what they're designed to do, right? I mean, in nature, created everything with a seed, and the seeds grow and then they produce the fruit thereof to do the work that they're called to do. And we are no different than that. And so my goal is to help young women discover who they are and their identity, so that they can live more fully on purpose, which is discovering, who they're here to serve, whether it be in their family, whether it be in their community, whether it be their gifts are specific to a more global or larger scale, if they're authors or writers, or they grow things, or they cook and they help brings families together, whatever their gifting is. We're all purposed for something in the grand theme of life, right? In the cycle of life. And our primary foundational goal should be to discover who we are and then discover how we can serve and become our best selves. What many people do oftentimes, and this may have been your experience too as a young woman, young people, but and I find it also true for older people as well, we go to relationships first. We look to relationships and other people to define who we are. We look to other people to upgrade us and help us to, like they identify who we are and then they up level us. But as soon as they remove themselves, then we become lopsided, right? Mm-hmm. And so we expect wrong things from relationships. Our expectations are misappropriated, and those relationships are a result of, and they are impacted by who we are and what we're called to do. Like, you can't separate who you are and what you do from any relationship that you have, because anytime we interact with other people in whatever the social setting, at the grocery store, at the library, at the bank, somebody you're dating, someone at church, in the business world, in your job, in your relationship with your children, your family, you bring all of you to that relationship and that interaction. That includes who you are, and that includes what you do. And so understanding what you bring to the table is a really foundational part of having healthy and whole relationships, but it first begins with the individual. Aside from any relationship we have with anyone else, it is my belief that the most significant relationship that we have in the earth or the world, however you define that, aside from your relationship with God, is with ourselves. It is also the most neglected relationship that many of us have. We don't like to spend time alone. We're not introspective. We're not as self-aware. We don't realize, that what we do affects other people and in what ways we fit into, the grand scheme of life and the cycle of life. And so this message is really to help young women to understand the impact that they have with knowing who they are, their identity, their purpose, and how to have healthy relationships. Doing that can help reduce dating violence, frustration in relationships, divorce in marriage, frustrations in jobs. We work jobs and we hate the job. We don't even know why we're here. People feel so unfulfilled. In America, many people chase, our culture has said, you go to school, you get a job so that you can get more money. So we're chasing a job that pays more money. Has nothing to do with who I am and whether or not I'm a good fit for the job or the career, even if it taps into who I am. It's about the money, the prestige, the power, how it's going to make my family look. None of that matters if you're unhappy and unfulfilled and dissatisfied and you have internal dissent. So that relationship with you becomes, it becomes challenged because we didn't pursue what was important for us. I'll say this before I let you move on. I had a dentist when I was in Cincinnati. I'm from Cincinnati, and I always supported Black doctors. So I always had Black doctors for everything. But this particular dentist was brilliant, and I absolutely loved him. And when I was in graduate school, we had lots of conversations about, who he was and how he started his career. And well, my mouth was open and he was talking. So I would ask a question and then I would let him go while he was digging, drilling. And I found from him that he was a dentist and he was excellent at what he did. However, he did not want to be a dentist. He wanted to be an attorney. But he pursued dentistry because that's what his father wanted him to do. Mm-hmm. And so he was living his father's unlived life, his expectations of him. And although he was good at it because it took skill and we can learn things, but he was unfulfilled. He had his own practice and everything. And like I said, I absolutely loved him as a dentist and as a physician, but it wasn't what he wanted to do. And I said, hey, man, it's not too late. You need to go to law school. And so I don't know if he did that or not because I moved to Columbus and left the city and disconnected from him, but I would hope that people would find that it's okay that you shift gears, right? That you take an exit off the ramp and say, no, I have found who I am in this way, and I'm fully embracing who I am in my purpose in this way, and I want to live fully, and I'm going to do that and shift gears. regardless of what other people think, what your parents think, of others' expectations, the world and our culture, because they don't have to live in you. But God created us all with everything that we have and need inside of us to do and to be and to become everything that he's called us to do, be, and become. And our relationships were challenged. Can you imagine if he was frustrated so much in his career that every night he went home and it made him an aggressive, more aggressive father, or a distant father, or he was distant and distracted from his children or his wife because he was feeling this internal, this passionate, this fire to be an attorney, yet he was doing something totally different and had a whole career set up like that. So when I say that who we are and what we're called to do affects our relationships, it absolutely does. It all works together. And we can't look to the relationship to satisfy who we are and what we're called to do. We have to do that work on the front end. Okay, now stop.
What inspired you to write this book?
I was inspired to write this book. Initially, it's so interesting, Queenie. I started out writing what do you call them? A list. It was an onboarding. What do you call them? It was a list of 25 things to do. It was called 25 Things to Know Before You Date. And it was a way to attract new customers to my email list. And so an email freebie. Sorry, I was at a loss for words. So I started out with that. And although I have always desired to write books, and I thought, I'm not gonna say always, but in high school, late high school, early college years, I thought, I want to write books and so forth. But I was like, who's gonna want to read my life story or anything like that? So it was in me, but I didn't know, what it would be about or anything like that. And so I started writing this list of 25 things you need to know before you date, which was my way of attracting young people to talk about relationships, when really I wanted to talk to them about identity and purpose, because that is the most significant part. And so I created that freebie, and then as I sat on my couch, I thought, wait a minute, so this one goes with that one, and that one goes with that one. So I made all these connections on those 25 topics, and then they became 11 chapters. That's how it came to be a book. And so I sat with my recorder on a video, Martin Luther King Day, and I talked the chapters because I'm extroverted. And so it was easier for me. I outlined the chapters, and then there came the book. So as I said before, people were asking for more of me, and I had a few friends who had written books, and they said, this is a calling card. It's kind of like your open door to opportunities to get into schools or organizations or whoever you want to serve. The book is the inroads. And so I said, okay, I'll write a book. What am I doing? I'm writing a book. Like, I'm really writing a book. It was very surreal. And each process of it is very surreal. The very fact that I'm holding this book in my hand is also very surreal. So yes, that's how I got started.
What did you learn when writing this book?
When writing this book, I learned that although self-publishing, one thing I learned is that although self-publishing is very common now, and many people are writing their own books, authoring a book is no simple feat, okay? Let me say that. It's not a small thing. I learned a lot about myself in this process, because although this book is not about me, I am in this book all over it, right? My life, my experiences with my friends, what I know, what I've studied in school, what God has shown me, what I understand and believe and know, my perceptions are all in this book. And so as I was going through writing certain parts of it, I don't know if how people, will feel about this, but when you're a believer, and if you have the Holy Spirit who lives inside of you, he spoke to me a lot in this book. And as I wrote things, I didn't even know that it was in there. And I just say that I was writing because I'm articulate and I think out loud. So I was talking it was coming out of my spirit, man, on paper. And when I went back and read it, I was like, ooh, that was good. Did I say that?
Wow.
And so I learned so much about myself. He answered questions that I had not learned yet about myself in my life as I was writing this book. Some of the things about my family that I had not turned over, as you till that ground and dig up those things, I had not yet learned those things about myself or my family. And I got greater understanding and a more keen awareness about my family, my siblings, my parents, their experiences, and the experiences of those who I connect with in a very special way. And so it's a good opportunity, though, to dig in and do the work. And I also found that I was I'm going to say, the University of Cincinnati, where I was trained and educated, and I started in the Upward Bound program when I was 16 years old. So I spent years from 16 through when I finished my grad degree in 2007. I mean, a long time, 20 some odd years. I'm a young woman, but a long time. They trained me. And so I am so grateful for the knowledge, the experience, the preparation that they gave me there to be able to serve the world and to be passionate about the work that I do and all the experiences that I had. One other thing that I will say I learned is that the Bible says that in Romans 8:28, that all things work together for good to those who love God and to those who are the called according to his purpose. And he showed me right here in this work that everything that I experienced in my life was not for naught. Everything he will use for his glory and for the edification of other people. And that is why, that is one reason I'm so grateful that he chose me and that he allowed me to be, a partaker in that with this work. It is particularly for young women who look like me, who have similar experiences. Their backgrounds are like mine. They relate to me. I relate to them. And other people will read it. It's targeted towards 18 to 30-year-old women because that's who my mission is to serve. My life mission is to motivate abundant life in young women. However, my mother at 88 years old read this book and said, I wish that I wasn't so far on the other side of this because I would apply some of this stuff. Girl, where did you get all of that? I didn't know you knew. I didn't know you knew all of that. I said, Mama, I didn't know I knew it either.
Yeah.
And it all makes sense. And so this is really just the beginning, but it is such a phenomenal opportunity. And I'm so glad that many other people are sharing their stories, their wisdom and knowledge to help others to grow and also to leave a legacy. And I know that I can reach more people with this book and this story than I can ever reach personally or in any classroom or any other setting. So,
what surprised you the most after writing this book?
I think what surprised me the most, I mean, this might be a simple answer, but it was actually holding it in my hand as a finished product of a book with my name on it that I wrote. It started out, as I said, as a list of 25 things to know before you date. And as I fleshed those things out on video and all that, I really didn't know that when I got the book in the mail, the first box, no, that was from the shipping. I had them printed at my public library in Cincinnati. They have a maker space and they can print books machine. Yeah, it's only one of few in the nation. And I went there and had copies made there. And I held my breath and I looked at the book and I was like, oh my God. And it was very surreal. I said, I can't believe this. And so as I gathered our books and my son carried them, my 11-year-old went with me and he went downstairs with me to as we were leaving the library, and the guard was standing there, beautiful Black woman. She's a mother of 2 or 3 daughters. She said, "Oh, what did you guys make?" And I said, "I wrote a book, and this is it. It's here." I had an extra copy that was just it didn't have a cover or any binding on it. It was just the manuscript. She said, "Will you sign it for me? I have 3 daughters." And I thought, I can't even get out of the door without this story getting in the hands of another woman. And I thought that was the most significant for me, seeing it, holding it, the reality of it, and knowing that it was going to impact people's lives in one way or another. Yeah.
What does the title mean?
The title, Girl, Get Your Life. Get your life. Or when I was in 4th grade, my music teacher would say, "It's not cho, it's yo." It's not cho, it's your. Because we say, "Get cho." And she said, "No, it's yo or your." Anyway, but girl, get your life means that God's word said that he came. So the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. John 10:10. But I come that you might have life and have it more abundantly. And so the title of this book is a play on the culture, the language that the young people use, and they be like, "Girl, get your life, get your whole life, get your life." And they mean
Get
get yourself together. No, I mean, they say it as a way to get each other told, to check one another and so forth. But what I mean by this is your life is in Christ, your whole life, who you are, your identity. It impacts everything that you do and everything that you are. Get that. And know that Christ came that you can live an abundant life regardless of the drama in your culture, the drama in your family, the drama in your household. You can live in peace. You can live in wholeness. You can live freely and fully. Get your life. It's yours. Nobody else needs to identify and we have our friends who we expect sometimes to tell us what to do, tell us who we are, help us figure this out, figure that out, and so forth. But it is your life. God created us all individually. And so I want to help young people to get the life that God gave them when he created them, understanding that before you had a mama and a daddy, you were already an individual. Before you came down through your family line, you were already an individual. Before the foundation of the world, God created us in his mind. Before the foundation of the world, God created us in his mind. You already were. And that is what we need to discover, is who we are, so we can live a full life. Look at all this mess and this drama and what the culture is. You got to take off your clothes and show them this so you can be somebody. That ain't nobody. That's just a body. The who that you are lives inside the body. It is your soul. It is your spirit. It is your mind, your will, your knowledge, your wisdom, intellect, all of that that's inside of you. The body is just a shell. Yeah, we're attracted to those kinds of things, but it's not the end all be all. And so I want young women to understand that they have powerful influence. Eve in the garden was the influence of Adam. He had a responsibility and he had a charge from God, but she was the influence, right? And so we don't recognize the power that we have, the influence that we have, in our families, in our communities, the way we can communicate with one another. I'll tell my friends, like, "Girl, I went through this program and this lady was the bomb. She helped me do A, B, and C, and I did this, and I told that guy, you ain't never got to come back to my house and don't tell me this, or I'm not going to be in this situation anymore. I'm going to live and do my best to serve other people. I'm getting this raise on my job because I recognize my value and my worth, and I go to work and I show up and so forth. Like, I'm not going to compromise all of that." I want young people to have that advantage. It's like giving them an edge, that slight edge, that advantage that they may not get from their family. Because I know that who I'm serving is not, like, I don't have all the answers. Some people have support in their families, but my mission is to sort of lay in the gap for those young people and their families that have a disconnect in communication and relationship, right? I don't want to talk to my mama about this, or I don't agree with my mom, or she doesn't know this, or she doesn't know that. That's fine. But you got Aunt Shell, That's me. You know, I'm that aunt, not necessarily the crazy aunt, but I'm like that auntie, has the same, you know, I have a level of wisdom, ethical, I'm honest, I'm forthright. I'm going to give you the best that God has given me for you to help you live your best life. And really understanding that your best life is inside you. It's not outside of you. It's not on you. It ain't what you wear. It's not what you drive. It's not what you live in. It's not who you roll with. It's not who upgraded you. It's inside you, because everything that's inside you exudes from inside out. And that's what people see. And that's what attracts people for real. Did I answer your question? Remember what it was?
Now, I think you talked a little on this, but again, or to reiterate, what is the purpose? What was your purpose in writing this book?
My purpose in writing the book was really to provide a tool, a guide to young women to help them to understand before they get into deep into relationships, you know, that dating relationships and otherwise, that who they are and what they're called to do is significant in helping them to choose well in all of those places in their life. The unfulfillment that we have, the frustration that we have, you know, as a 40-something-year-old woman, I have so many friends, you see it on TV and so forth, that are challenged in their lives in terms of dating, relationships, marriages, and they think, you know, we outgrew one another, or, you know, this just ain't for me anymore. Sometimes it's that we didn't know enough about ourselves early on when we made those choices to engage in and connect ourselves in those relationships. And if you knew better the first time, then you can choose better. And that's what I want people to understand, is that you will choose better for yourself when you know who you are, you love yourself, you recognize your value, and that you don't have to compromise yourself in those ways anytime.
How will readers benefit from this book?
I believe that readers will be inspired. They will be provoked to think differently, to think about themselves differently, their relationships, who they are, how they hold other people, you know, how they hold other people to a standard of expectations in relationships. I believe that, you know, people will benefit from, by understanding, oh, they're going to see themselves. They're going to see themselves in this book, and they're going to relate to the stories that I share, the young people, I guess you call them an avatar that I created in the book, and they're going to connect with that, and they're going to find that there is hope and that they can choose differently from this book. So they're going to find hope. They're going to find new perspective for themselves and their lives. They're going to think differently for themselves, and they're going to know that there is more, that they can choose differently and live more fully and get the life that God has for them. It's theirs for the taking.
Would you like to read a little snippet from the book?
Sure. I'll read a little snippet. So I'm going to read from chapter 6. I mean, you know, I can't really tell you if there's a favorite chapter that I have, but I really just, I like this part because it speaks to purpose. And that's one of the things that I learned very early on in my young adult life. I was mentored at my church and took some classes around purpose and identity and finding your path and so forth. And my mentors taught me so much about the fact that I'm not an accident, but that I was chosen in purpose. And so chapter 6 is, you are not an accident. There's a quote that says, 2 most important days in your life are the day you are born and the day that you find out why. And that's by Mark Twain. So you are not an accident. According to www.history.com, the World Trade Center was purposed to facilitate world peace through trade. In 1973, they completed the Twin Towers. The buildings were the tallest skyscrapers in the world, and each was 110 stories high. with at least 200,000 guests each day and 50,000 employees. They were massive steel and glass structures with a foundation of at least 70 feet deep. The elevators carried 97 people and up to 10,000 pounds. Altogether, there were 40,000 doors, 43,600 windows, 6 acres of marble, 3,000 miles of electrical wiring, and 425,000 cubic yards of concrete. The engineers and architects planned these buildings to withstand massive amounts of weight, both internally and externally. The depth and fortitude of the foundation was a critical part of how well the building maintained itself for so many years. There were very detailed materials, characteristics of the buildings, time to develop, and specifications critical to the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center. They knew everything that the building could withstand. The only thing that they had not considered was a terrorist attack. That was the one thing that destroyed these structures after 28 years. Somewhere deep inside, we believe that our lives have a purpose. We may wonder from time to time what to do with our lives, to get on the right path, or together, as we say. However, these ideas can be ephemeral. Be encouraged in knowing that even more masterfully and wonderfully than these detailed skyscrapers is your unique design and purpose. Our life mission is how we use our gifts, passions, knowledge, and experiences to serve others in our circle of influence and beyond. Many people know that they have a purpose, but they don't necessarily understand how to discover it. In addition, some don't understand how our identity correlates with our mission. Let's see. As we wonder and ask ourselves, what on earth are we here for? Please consider the more primary question, which is, who am I? Mm-hmm. The reason is that there is a direct correlation between who we are and what we do, which is our purpose. If I were to ask you, who are you? Or ask you to tell me a little about yourself, what would you say? Many times, our first responses are roles that we play. We might say, I'm a mother, sister, brother, husband, wife, student, boss, or employer. These are truly roles that we play. However, they don't describe who we are. It's important for us to differentiate the roles that we play from who we are. So I love this analogy of the skyscrapers for the Twin Towers because it describes how much detail a building and its foundation is given from the developers. And the depth of that building, 70 feet to the earth, means that they had to dig this structure so that it could hold the massive amount of weight that they expected. Windows, glasses, hundreds of thousands of people, 10,000 pounds in the elevator, 200,000 visitors a day in these structures for years. And so these architects and these engineers had to work together in order to create the foundation to be able to hold the weight of what they were creating and its purpose. We are no different. When God designed us in his mind before the foundation of the world, he knew that he called Queenie Clem to be a book ambassador, to be a literary ambassador. And what did he create in you? He gave you a passion for reading, a love for words, a love for letters, for the English language, for teaching and for sharing. And all of that he gave you was your foundation that was solid so that you could support other people in reading and sharing their message to the world, right? Everybody doesn't have that same gift. So when he thought about us in creation, he knew that we needed specific gifts and talents. We needed personality and preferences. We needed knowledge and experiences. We needed to be in certain environments. He knew what things were going to affect us in what ways so that we could carry the weight of the call on our lives. And that relationship is so important and significant for us to understand that that development of that foundation, the stuff that we go through, the mess of our lives, the mess of our environments, our culture, and all of that stuff is going to have a direct impact on who we are and the work that we do. There's no way that I can support young women in the way that I am if I wasn't the hopeful, compassionate, loving, tested, broken, and healed, right? Because I've been through stuff, and if I hadn't been through stuff, everybody's been through something, but it's who I am in the stuff. See, if I come from a family of 8 people, I come from a family of 8 siblings, we all have the same parents. People say, well, how are you all different? We're all different, even the twins, because I am different in this family. And these things affect me differently than they do everybody else. That is because I'm called to do this thing. And I have to have this, I have to be able to carry this stuff. So I have to be able to, right, I got to have the personality for it. I'm the lighthearted, the funny one, but I'm passionate, I'm purposeful, I'm knowledgeable, and I'm intelligent, but I'm also rebellious in a way because I was the youngest one. So I rebelled against what my parents thought and also rebelled against what the culture says. And I'm like, that ain't what you have to do. This is who you are, and be free in who you are. So all of that works together. God knew that when he created us in his mind before the foundation of the world. There's no mistakes. There's no accidents. There's no happenstance. There's no big booms. There's no loud bangs. Everything that God created in the earth and in the world has a purpose. From the grass that grows in the weeds. You can put buildings and concrete on top of weeds, and what do? They grow because that's what they're purpose to do, right? You can put the tree there, and the tree is going to uproot through your pipes. Why? Because it's growing. God said grow, and that's what we do. So there is no accident. And I tell young women, because I work with young women at Homeless Teen Mom Shelter that I serve with, it doesn't matter if your mom told you that you were an accident, that she never wanted you, that she should have aborted you. She should have aborted you when she had a chance. Your mama didn't have no choice. Your daddy didn't have no choice in the matter. God uses who he will to bring forth the life that he chooses. If you're here on this earth and you're alive, you're supposed to be here, because a lot of people don't make it. I mean, there's stillbirths, there's miscarriages, there's all kinds of things that happen in nature that people don't make it, or whatever experiences they have. But every single seed in the earth has a purpose, and that includes you and I. There is no accident. None.
All right. How can we find you and find your book? And I think this is such a pretty cover. This is so cute.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I wanted the colors to be bright and attractive, and especially to my brother said, "Oh, it's too." I said, "Right, it's not for you." I said, "Girl, get your life." So it's not masculine. However, the book can be found on Amazon.com. It is available at BarnesandNoble.com, Target.com, Walmart.com, BooksAMillion.com. It's available online. You can also purchase it from me at gum.co/getyourlife. That's gum.co/getyourlife. And you will get an autographed copy if you purchase that from me. Oops, so I will sign that. You see that? Sign the inside of it for you, and so you can connect with me and get the book there.
First me.
First you.
Mine just say, oh, look at that, Queen Clem. No autograph, y'all. No autograph, y'all. Just playing. I'm happy I got it. I was saying, like you said, autograph, and I'm like, what autograph? What autograph? Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna love this.
It does have your name, but when I see you, I'll be more than happy to autograph that book for you.
I am so excited.
It'll be my pleasure. You can also find me I am on Instagram at girl_get your life. I'm also on Facebook at the Table Communication. That's my business page there, at the Table Communication, and girl_get your life at on Instagram.
Okay. Is there anything else you would like to add before we leave?
Oh, this has been such a wonderful experience. I just want to thank you, Queenie, for the work that you do and for inspiring authors and supporting authors and sharing your platform with us. Thank you for sharing and your passion to share books and stories and experiences. It's so important for us to share our own voices with the world, you know, to leave the legacy, to leave the stories. If it weren't for authors, we wouldn't have Bibles. We wouldn't know the story of Dr. Martin Luther King written from his own words. We wouldn't have Malcolm X. We wouldn't have Mark Twain. We wouldn't have Maya Angelou. And you support and hold up those of us who are coming through the ranks to do the same thing. So I want to thank you for sharing that, your wisdom, your knowledge, your voice, your heart, and your life with all of us. And I just encourage anyone, if you know a young woman who's 18 to 30 years old, please connect her with me. This is the book. I am completing the workbook now, also launching my online course and coaching program. Also a transformational retreat will be coming for next year. I am speaking at colleges and universities around the country. So if you are connected to a college, a university, a community college, an organization that supports young women, a nonprofit like YWCA, Dress for Success, or any of those organizations that supports young women, and even high school, like 16, 17, really not much younger than that though, because it might be too much body for them, depends on who they are, but please connect me. I would love to come and share and speak and impart this message of hope and love and share my story with them. The story is yet to be told, but when I tell you that you don't have that much foundation, you can't come out with a work like this and not have the foundation rooted in who you are. And so connect with me. You can email me at thetablecommunication@gmail.com. I'm on Facebook at the Table Communication. Follow me on Instagram. Connect with me. It would be my pleasure to serve you and your young women. So
Thank you. Thank you so much for coming in, Rachelle. And again, girl, get your life. Come on and get it. Thank you.
Thank you.
This, again, is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Happy reading. Bye, y'all.